All right, so you got to give a speech. What do we do first? How do I start this process? What do I do? Well, thankfully, the answer to this is actually not that hard because the first thing that you need to do in any public speaking encounter, I don't care what it is, who your audience is, what the topic is you need to pick a good topic for your speech that will match the general purpose of your speech. And how do we do that? What are these things? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Picking a topic of a speech is the foundation for everything else you do. I mean, you can't write an introduction, a body, conclusion, do research, or nothing until you've actually picked a topic for your speech. But what's a good topic? Where can you get topic ideas from? And it's also important that this topic you pick matches what the general purpose of the speech is. And I can already hear the questions. Well, Mr. DeBerry, what is the general purpose? Let's talk about those. But first, let's deal with the topic itself. All right. When you are picking a topic for a speech, there's two very broad categories, and I mean very broad categories, that you can pick from when you're trying to pick a topic for your speech. And these are not overly complex. The first one are things you already know a lot about. If you already are very knowledgeable in a subject, you can use your speech as a chance to share what you know. And fun fact or tip, if you are really nervous about public speaking situations, this is a good route to go, because one of the things that helps you feel more confident when you are giving a speech is when you know what you're talking about. All right? So you can pick a topic that you already know a lot about. Now, you still might need to have, outside sources, and we'll talk about that in a later video. But going with something you know a lot about can help give you confidence because you are fluent in the subject matter. But that's not the only option. Your second broad category, stuff you want to know more about. For almost any speech you write, even if you are pretty fluent, you might need to do a little bit of research, sometimes more than others. If you're going to be spending the time doing research on a subject, you might as well spend it doing research on a subject that interests you. Maybe you don't know, for example, a lot about how nuclear power works, but you've been curious about it. Excellent opportunity to find out about it. Maybe you don't know a lot about the history of roller skating, but you've been curious. Great opportunity to learn about that. So these are two very broad categories that you can go with. All right. Now, typically what you want to do, regardless of which one of these you pick, is once you kind of know generally, well, I'd like to talk about something that I'm familiar with, then you want to go through some type of brainstorming activity to generate topic ideas. And there are 102 of these things, okay? You can just start Googling stuff and seeing what information pulls up, and that can serve as an inspiration. Wikipedia, although not a good way to find sources, is a great place for kind of looking and thinking about potential topics. Why? Because I'm sure most of you are familiar with Wikipedia. It has all those little words in the article that are hyperlinked to other words. So how many times you've been reading a Wikipedia article and you'll see something, oh, what's that? And you click on it, that takes you to a different article, and then you read that one for a bit, and you see another one, like, oh, what's that? And you click on it, and you go to someplace else. That's 3 topics right there. Same thing with going to a place like YouTube. You look for original videos on, I don't know, the Spanish Inquisition. And as you're looking at those, you then see a video come up on the side that's, oh, that looks interesting, and you click on that. Those are great ways to brainstorm and think about topics. An old school way, and I still use this sometimes, is you can take a sheet of paper, draw a line down the middle of it, front and back, and just start writing whatever comes to your mind. I don't care how ridiculous or stupid it is, you write it down and you keep going till you have both columns full on both the front and back. The thing to remember in your brainstorming, is do not self-limit. Like if you're doing the writing down thing and, tattoos comes to mind, you don't know, that's stupid. Don't. Write it down. Put it on the list. Because I'll tell you something. When you're trying to brainstorm, your brain, kind of like a lot of muscles, needs to get warmed up. So you'll sit down and, got your pen and you're like, okay, I'm going to brainstorm. You sit there and you go, lamp. carpet. Cell phone, apps, internet, Twitter, political discourse, line, and then all of a sudden it starts to come a lot faster, but you got to get it warmed up first. So don't self-limit. Figure out if you want to do something you know a lot about or something you don't, but do a brainstorming activity and just let it flow till you have a big potential list. And don't limit at that point. But after you have that list of potential topics, now you need to narrow it down. And the first big thing you need to use to narrow it down is the general purpose. Okay? Now, what is this? The general purpose is the very broad, overarching goal of a speech. It's very general and very broad. It'd be like me asking, what do you want to do this weekend? And you say, have fun. Okay? How many things are encapsulated in having fun? But that's different than I gotta work. Okay, you're at least saying, I'm not gonna work, I'm gonna have fun. Okay, that's at least taking some things off the table and you're focusing on this. That's what a general purpose of a speech is. It's a very broad goal of what you intend to accomplish with the speech, not about any specific topic, just with the speech as a whole. And when we are talking about the general purpose of your speech will always, with no exception at all, be one of three things. Okay? These three general purposes, these are things laid down by Socrates and Aristotle and have been proven time and time again and are still true to this day. Anytime you give a speech, you are doing one of these three general purposes. There is not a fourth. There is only these three. And what are they? Well, the first one is to inform. When you are informing your audience, you're basically taking on the role of a teacher or educator. You are just there to tell them about something, to teach them about something, without making an argument. That's key. I have students every semester that mess this up. In an informative speech, you are just telling them about something. You're not trying to change their minds. You are not trying to change their opinions. You are just giving them information. All right? Now, that may sound simple, and it is if you stay in that lane. Okay, so let's look at some examples here. If I wanted to give a speech about how to make homemade chocolate chip cookies, would that be an informative speech? I'm just going to teach you how to make them. Yeah, that would be informative. If I wanted to give you an informative speech on why chocolate chip is the best cookie, that's persuasive. Now I'm making an argument. And always I have students who come up and say, I want to give an informative speech about why global warming is harmful. No, that's argumentative. Now, I know you may think, well, Mr. DeBerry, that's a no-brainer. Yes, you may think it's a no-brainer, but are there people out there who seriously disagree with that statement? Yes, maybe you're one of them, maybe you're not. Doesn't matter. That is an argumentative statement. That's not just informative. When you are informing people, you are strictly just giving them information. Versus persuasive speaking. This is when you are actually trying to change people's minds. This is when you are making an argument, whatever it is. Okay? If I want to give a speech about, let's look at informative, persuasive, about the benefits of starting a home exercise plan, is that informative or is that persuasive? Well, if I give a speech about the benefits of exercise, aren't I trying to get you to start doing it? Which would be trying to get you deliberately to change behavior, and that would be making an argument which makes it persuasive. But if I was to say to inform my audience on the benefits and drawbacks of starting a home exercise program, and I gave equal time to both sides, that would be informative. If I just said, look, here's the pros and the cons, you make your own choice, that's informative. If I go, here's the reasons why we should do it, that's persuasive. So that's the key difference. A persuasive speech is making some type of argument or deliberately seeking to try to change people's minds. An informative speech just gives information. And our third broad goal of the speech is to entertain. Now, an entertainment type speech is simply that. It is there. I'm not just trying to give you information. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind. I'm just giving a speech literally for entertainment value, okay? Some classic examples of these would be things like wedding toasts. You're not trying to inform the audience about stuff. You're not trying to change them. You're just giving a speech to celebrate an occasion. That's an entertainment speech. A eulogy at a funeral, a graduation commencement speech, an awards acceptance speech, or an awards delivery speech. Those are all speeches to entertain. Now, are there times when speeches to entertain can contain informative or persuasive elements? Absolutely. Great example is stand-up comedy. You can probably think of several stand-up comedians that have informative and persuasive messages within their comedy. Some examples off the top of my head. Dave Chappelle, Bill Maher, the late, great Richard Pryor, the late, great Red Fox, Eddie Murphy, kind of retired now, but they all had persuasive or social commentary elements in their comedy. But their main goal wasn't to persuade you. Their main goal was to entertain you. They threw some of that in there, but their main job was to entertain. So if your primary goal is to entertain, that's that third point. Now, how can you use this to help you with the topic? If you know what your general purpose is supposed to be, then you can look at that potential list of topics, and then you want to ask yourself, which ones of these topics do I feel comfortable speaking about and am also confident I can stay within this general purpose? Not is it theoretically possible to give a speech on that general purpose. Can you do it? And that's important because there may very well be some topics, and this is by no means a character flaw in you. There may be some topics that you care so much about, you legit cannot just stay informative on. You just can't. You care too much about it. I'll give my wife, for example. My wife is a gigantic animal lover. She could probably not give a straight informative speech about animal adoption. It would become persuasive because of how much she cares about it. I probably can't give a straight informative speech about the importance of free speech. I care deeply about the importance of free speech. I know me. It will turn into a persuasive speech. So can you do it? Could you, for example, give a straight informative speech about child sex slavery? Now remember, any point you start saying it's bad, it's wrong, it's immoral, and we need to stop it, you're being persuasive, not informative. Could you do it? Maybe the answer is yes, maybe it's no. But the point is, you want to pick a speech that you're confident in. One, you can do the speech, and two, you can confident when you do it, you can keep it matching the general purpose. So you go through that list of topics you have, you pick out those ones that you can do and that you think match that general purpose. And then of that smaller list, you then think, all right, this is the one I'm most confident in, and that's the one you go with. Now, this process is not overly time consuming. I can't think of a single time in my life where I've literally sat down to deliberately come up with a topic of speech. I've spent more 15 to 20 minutes doing it. But if you're really stuck in trying to come up with a topic, go through one of these processes of brainstorming, making a list of just things you think about and matching them up, and you'll get there. So that is the basics of how to pick a topic for a speech and what the general purpose is and how it needs to guide you in the topic selection process. I hope you found this video informative, and I will see you again in our next video.